Frank, when was the first time that Usyk against Fury was mentioned to you? Can you remember when it was?
It was after the second time. Seriously, the second time he beat Joshua, because obviously you'd like to have done it straight away, but they had a rematch clause, him and AJ, so it was after that.
So as we got closer and closer to it, this fight's been absolutely made, what, once, twice, 3 times, 4 times in your book?
It's been made a couple of times, but, you know, people get the wrong idea about, you know, Usyk's people put all this stupid stuff out about Tyson, greedy and everything, and that at the time was because the Prince Khalid, who was involved,
the previous boxing guy in Saudi.
We agreed terms with him, but he couldn't give us a date. We never got a contract, and that happened twice. So then we were going to put it on in the UK, and we just about got it done, and then they changed their mind again because they had overtures that it still could happen here, but they'd have to wait until the Christmas. We were starting to get it on in March a couple of years ago, and that was a bit of a blow because Tyson was really training hard for it, and it didn't happen. Anyway, out of bad comes good, and it's happened. But people talk about it like it's something that's been going on for years and years and years, and it hasn't. Lennox Lewis never fought Riddick Bowe, ever.
Conveniently forgotten.
Forgotten. When he fought Mike Tyson, which there was he stepped aside for, that was 10 years past Mike Tyson's best.
And 5 or 6 years into when it was first mentioned.
When Larry Holmes fought against Mike Tyson, he was past his best, well past his best. These two guys are at their prime.
Yeah.
They're both the same age. They're both undefeated. It's not like somebody passing the baton on to a former great fighter who's past his best. At the moment, they're at their best. And they're winning fights.
And as a boxing man, that's something that appeals to you especially.
Well, it does, because and it annoys me. You know, like people reinvent history and so forth. They're always doing it, especially when they find boxing an easy target sometimes. But no, this is a great fight. This is two guys, both, as I said, undefeated, both in their prime, 4 belts on the line. First time there's a unification this century. It's the first time there's been a unification for the 4 belts
ever.
So this is history. This is real boxing and sporting history.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. As I was talking to George at recently in London at York Court, one of the fights, and he said that, he made that point. He said, this is not just boxing history, this is sporting history. This is the prize. This is the sports prize. This is the prize that anybody, really, no matter how old you are, whether you're 16 or whether you're 76, everyone knows the heavyweight championship, that's the prize. That's our grand prize.
But the heavyweight champion of the world, you go back to Jack Johnson, you go back Dempsey, you go Marciano, Louis, you talk about Ali, you talk about Foreman, you talk about Mike Tyson. All these guys were probably the most famous sportsmen on the planet.
At that time.
At that particular moment in time. All of them were. Because, you know, as much as, you know, we've got in UK, our national sports are pretty well defined, certainly football or soccer as they call it in the States. In other countries, they're not so big. But around the world, everybody knows the heavyweight champion world. And the heavyweight division is the blue ribbon division, and that sets the tone for it all. And whoever wins this fight, and I believe my man will win it, whoever wins this fight, he'll be the guy, he'll be the number one.
Frank, earlier this year, it was called off. It was about 10 o'clock in the morning, if I'm not mistaken, when you got the message about the cut eye. And at that point, Tyson looked like he was in great shape, looked like he was in the right place. Did you have concerns at that point that there might be a problem going forward?
No, not really. I mean, the cut, my only problem was the Riyadh season was finishing.
Yeah.
And it was finishing in March when the fight's supposed to take place. So were we going to push it back to October for the start of the season? But everybody works hard to find a new date. And the date was put together within the course of a weekend, which is a bit of a thing to do, bearing in mind there's no healing process yet. Yeah. I think he hadn't even seen a plastic surgeon at that stage.
He was still on a plane.
Yeah,
as far as I can make it out.
It was done. And Tyson was really down in the dumps, but he's a very philosophical guy. And once the new date's there, he's got a target, he's got something to aim for. And that's what he needs in boxing. You know, just going in the gym and training, he needs to say, I'm training for this date, for this fight. and then he readjusts himself, his brain, and he's on it. And that took away all the worries. Obviously the question everybody asks is will the eye hold up? Will it be targeted by Usyk? If he can catch it, of course he's going to do that. There's no doubt about it. We've got a strong referee in there, Mark Nelson. That, we all agreed on the referee.
Was that something that Fury's side pushed for?
I'm going to go to the rules meeting. I never go to the rules meeting.
Are you going to go this time?
I want to go this one because I want to emphasise about the referee being strong, not standing for the complaining about low blows, which he does every fight.
Straight away.
Not giving him time, defining before the fight the target area as per the regulations. It's not where the shorts end, it's where the belly button ends. Yeah. That's what it is in the rules, or the navel, whatever you want to call it. And various other things. And I want to make sure that, there's not the head's not getting used. So we got all that. But, at the end of the day, I've got confidence in Tyson. Out of bad, and it was bad at the time of the cut, becomes good. Because he'd more or less finished his sparring. I think he had one more spar left.
1 day left, yeah.
Yeah, so he got the cut. That ended that, but he was in great nick, and he'd been training since before Christmas for the fight. Now, then he took a couple of weeks off, obviously, because he's peaked, more or less peaking, come down, gone back into camp. He's gone into camp where he hasn't had to lose weight. Yeah. He's gone in there in a fairly good shape. What we were worried about is that he peaked too soon again, and maintaining his program. So come the 18th on the night, it is his optimum best physical shape and mental shape, and he's in that zone at the moment. I'm not overlooking Usyk for one bit. This is no formality. Usyk is a very, very good fighter. He's done everything as a Olympian, top man there, probably the top cruiserweight of his generation. Unified the belts, and he's he's been heavyweight for 3-4 years now.
Yeah,
4 years.
3 good years.
So he's a heavyweight, and all this about a little man and whatever is that's a nonsense to me.
He likes you to say
Evander Holyfield was a little man,
smaller than him.
Was a cruiserweight. David Haye was a little man. There's plenty of guys who've come up from that. They just grow into it, and he's grown into it now, and that's his natural weight now, and he's a heavyweight. He'd be more comfortable. He's not killing himself to make the weight, but and he's got great skill sets. But I just feel that Tyson is the best heavyweight of his generation. I think he always does when he goes into fights. He's not an underdog for me in this fight, but when he goes in, where there's a bit of doubt, that's when he shines. When he went to Germany and beat Klitschko, he was a massive underdog. Yeah. When he went to the States twice on the trot, he was the outsider. Yeah. What's his name was in favourite.
Wilder was the favourite. Big favourites. Let's get that right.
Fight. So he's done that each time, and this will be this for him is a challenge that he wants, and I can't see how serious he's into it. But you can bet your life, Usyk, looking at the fight with Ngannou, like a lot of people have looked at, and quite rightly so, I get it, will look at that and think, there were some serious chinks in the armour there.
But then equally, Wilder might have looked at the Otto Wallin fight 3 months early before the second fight, looked at Otto Wallin and seen Fury in that fight when he picked up a big cut, and he might have given Wilder. And as you say, Fury had changed in that 3 month period. It's a different Fury.
I think the Wallin fight, I never got that. What everybody talked, they talked like Wallin was beating him. He wasn't.
He just went the distance.
He went the distance, and Tyson had to be careful because he had a terrible cut, and he was boxing on the back foot and holding and claiming holding. Because I've got to tell you, anywhere else in the world, that fight would have been stopped. Because it was a seriously bad cut, and we got away with it. He got away with it there. The referee let it go on, and we got away with it. But Wallin weren't beating him or anything.
He was just there.
Ngannou fight, for me, that was a bad night in the office for him, a seriously bad night in the office. But on a bad night, he won.
Yeah.
That's what good fighters do. Yeah. And and they may see some chinks there, which is good because it adds a bit of drama to the fight, a bit of spice to it. But I generally I think that Tyson will do the job.
Now, a few weeks ago, we were in Morecambe, in the north of England, and it was a wet day, and Tyson came into that conference, Frank, and he was in one of the best places I think I've ever seen him. I don't mean the Morecambe Players' Lounge. I'm talking about mentally and physically. I think we were both a little bit shocked at just how good he looked and how good he sounded. I thought it was brilliant that day. And that was 3 weeks ago.
He was. And as I said, out of bad comes good, because in that camp, that's done him a favour in some ways, because he is so on it now. I mean, you're going to see him today. You're going to talk to him. He's really on it. And up there, he was. You only got. Look, with an athlete, you can look at an athlete and you can look at them and see, what condition they're in.
Straight away.
And he was jumping out of his skin. Yeah. He's got a glow about him. He looks well. He looks fit. He's not carved out of marble. He's not a Frank Bruno. He's not an AJ. He is a big, tall, not a lump, but a big guy he's not definition. But what he's got natural stamina. He's got natural strength. Probably got more stamina than both the two fighters we just talked about. Yeah. Much more stamina than him. Got natural strength. He's athletic. He moves. He's got a fantastic boxing brain. He can switch hit, southpaw, orthodox, do what he wants to do, fight going backwards, fight going forwards. And he's changed his style a bit over the last few years. I mean,
understandably.
That first fight he had with Wilder, he was still carrying a lot of weight, and he won that fight. He got robbed there. He carried a lot of weight, but he was boxing he boxed very intelligently in that fight. And that last round when he got up, he then went on the front foot.
The next 2 minutes wins it.
The second fight, he changed his style completely. Brought a new trainer in and started fighting as an offensive fighter.
Do you get the impression from talking to him, Frank, that he's aware of his position in the heavyweight legacy? I mean, we've mentioned here today some of the great names, and I'm not saying he's better than any of those names, but he's in that conversation, isn't he? If he were to win,
absolutely, he's in it, because he's beaten the best heavyweight of his generation in Klitschko. He's beaten a guy in Wilder who was undefeated for 6 years and statistically,
and in Wilder's backyard,
3 times, and was statistically. And Klitschko in the backyard.
Yeah.
Statistically, the hardest punching heavyweight out there in the last 40, 50 years. He's done all of that. So this is a big fight for him. He says he doesn't care about legacy and all that. I hope deep down he does. He just wants to win. But like I said to him, the glory of being that guy, wherever you go, and you're introduced as the four belt, undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, the best of your generation. That's it, mate. You're in the Guinness Book of Records. You're in the record books. Your kids. That's my dad. Everybody associated will love it, and they will, and he will grow into it when he retires, because he's going to have to retire one day.
One day.
When he retires, that will all fall into place for him, and he'll thoroughly deserve it.
And finally, a straightforward prediction. What happens? Ding, ding, 20-odd thousand people, Saturday night in Saudi Arabia, undisputed, finally. What happens first round? What happens in the fight?
I think Tyson take the centre of the ring, and I think he'll start backing him up. I think he'll work behind his jab and let those nice straight shots go. And I think he'll be looking to throw those hooks to the body. And he'll knock him out halfway.
And one thing we do overlook too often, Frank, is it was 1999 when Evander and Lennox Lewis had that fight, and then 12, 15 years before when Mike Tyson was clearing up in the 3-belt era. Sometimes that's been overlooked a little bit here. This is for 4 belts, the first time, 25 years since anybody even got the 3 belts together.
It is, and that's the magnitude of this fight. It's happening. And it's brilliant for boxing. And you know what it's brilliant for? British boxing. Who'd ever thought it? When I started out in boxing, I remember all those years ago, and it was many years ago, when I was a kid watching the fights, British heavyweights, good heavyweights, but none of them could do it.
One in the top 10.
Henry couldn't do it. Brian London couldn't do it. Joe Bugner couldn't. None of them could do it. And look where we are now. Number 1 heavyweight in the world.
I tell you what, I'd like to go on a diversion here and do Joe Bugner at the Bloomsbury when you were trying to make him with George Foreman and a young Mike Tyson, all those mad fights. That's for another day. That's a 2-hour shoot on another sphere.